On October 22nd, 2024, the first book covering the Trump assassination attempts, first at Butler and then at West Palm Beach in summer 2024, is going to be released. I am the co-author. I'm Joshua Lisec, obviously. The book is Bulletproof: The Truth About the Attempted Assassinations of Donald J. Trump. That's the book. It's from Skyhorse Publishing. My co-author is Jack Posobiec, whom I did the book Unhumans with. Also about the truth. In this case, it was the secret history of communist revolutions and how to crush them. Ironically, it was immediately following the assassination attempt of Trump, the first one in Butler, and then the palace coup of Joe Biden during that 9-day period, that week or so. Unhumans was the number one best-selling book in the entire country. By a long shot. It was not even close. There was no close second by many thousands of copies sold of the book. And of course, in the book, we talk about political assassinations. We talk about palace coups. We talk about manipulation. We talk about political imprisonment. And of course, the forward author to that book, Steve Bannon, is currently a political prisoner. It's just about 3 weeks away from release as of the time of this recording. Fortunately, finally. And by the way, people who were like, well, that's just a biased partisan thing to say. Merrick Garland had Steve Bannon put in prison for contempt of Congress. At the very same time Merrick Garland was prosecuting Steve Bannon, Merrick Garland had committed contempt of Congress and had refused to show up for the congressional subpoena and was seen on video saying he didn't have to show up for the congressional subpoena because he didn't want to. That was his defense. I'm reminded of the parable of the servant from the Gospels. When Jesus is sharing this parable, there is the wicked servant. His debt is forgiven by the righteous master. And then that same servant then goes and beats up a fellow servant who owes him just a little bit of money. This vast debt is forgiven. But then that person who is forgiven then goes and beats the crap out of someone else for a tiny, tiny debt. That is the Merrick Garland and Steve Bannon story right there. Everything comes back to the Bible. That's why we're saying a resurgence of Christianity and more traditional, socially conservative versions of Christianity, not this woke crap where lesbian priests are out here talking about the sacrament of abortion. I'm not even joking, by the way. That's not an exaggeration. Not an exaggeration whatsoever. There's a funny domino meme. The littlest domino is Martin Luther. And then the biggest domino is lesbian priest praises the sacrament of abortion, right? That's a transition. So not that version of Christianity, but Christianity with healthy testosterone levels, we'll call it, has been researching. And I believe that this is why. Now, this video is not just about how interesting the times in which we live are, but about how to describe them in such a way that we can fully grasp the moment that we're living in. We understand the times in which we're living. And if you are a communicator in public in this day and age, you want attention on your stuff, obviously, but you also must have gravity, or rather have gravitas with how you talk about what it is that you are talking about. When you talk, I want people to listen. When you write, I want people to read. And when you do both, I want people to, above all, feel something. I want people to read your stuff and they get goosebumps. I want people to hear you speak and they almost cannot catch a breath because of what you're saying, because you're into the moment. You're getting it. You're putting it together. You're putting together the pieces of the puzzle. The previous subtitle rather, of the book Bulletproof, prior to the second assassination attempt with Ukrainian freedom fighter and Azov Battalion Stan Ryan Wesley Routh, the previous subtitle had been How a Shot Meant for Donald Trump Took Out Joe Biden. Is not that the most perfect subtitle to a book you've ever heard in your entire life? It is. The reason it works is because it connects two events. It puts together the pieces of the puzzle without any assertions, without anything that is not in evidence. And you realize, oh shoot, that happened 9 days later. 8 calendar days later, but 9 literal days later. That's right. And then you begin to realize, wait a second, Trump wins a debate, they try to shoot him. Trump wins a debate, they try to shoot him. Right? You connect the dots for people. You leave them breathless and with goosebumps. You're connecting these events, creating a compelling narrative that is supported by the evidence that's available. I, of course, am referring to when it was revealed that Biden is cognitively incapable of being president at the debate that he had with Trump. And then there was the assassination attempt not 2 weeks later, followed by the next debate he had, which was with Kamala Harris. It was originally reported that Kamala won handily, but then the one moment anyone remembers is the Springfield, Ohio Haitian immigrants, 20,000. They're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the pets of the people who live there. Viral TikTok dances and memes where all the hot girls are supporting Trump now. Everyone wants to be on that team. Trump won the debate. Oh, and then there's Ryan Wesley Ralph outside Trump National Golf Club. Right? It's a circle, it's a cycle. And you see this happening now, right? Now we changed it because Joe Biden no longer being part of the national conversation, being replaced by Kamala, and there being multiple assassination attempts at this point. And we were able to secure a forward from Donald Trump Jr., having had him author that, write that up. So it just made sense for us to change it to increase the scope because we're covering both now. The prior subtitle is obviously correct for the period at which it was first released, when there had just been the one assassination attempt. And now there's multiple ones that we have to handle here. We also had it be multiple because, well, at this point, there could be more, unfortunately. We pray not. It's never acceptable when there's violence in public, unjust, unrighteous violence in public towards public figures. I choose my words carefully there, friends. Unjust violence is never acceptable. Extrajudicial violence, not righteous. There's no divine mandate there. And so we hope that there's, and pray that there's not more. Because, of course, Corey Competore lost his life that day in Butler, July 13th, 6:11 p.m. when the first shots rang out at Donald J. Trump. The lesson that I'd like you to take away from this is that it is okay to do a little narrative building, to connect things, to show the relationships, how this one thing caused the other. Oh, shoot, I didn't realize that they did. Now, it is critical that you don't botch the cause and effect. I think of a recent study which came out called something about the tennis longevity connection. And it goes like this. Senior citizens who are avid tennis players, meaning they play 2 or 3 times more per week, live on average 7 to 9 years longer. What are you noticing about that? Cause and effect are probably reversed. Senior citizens who live 7 to 9 years longer are likely to play tennis 2 to 3 times a week because they have nothing else to do. Oh, that's not true. That's not true. No, it's because they're already in better health. They're in health, a state of health, which will allow them to live 7 to 9 years longer. And it's in that state of superior health they are able to be more active and do things like play tennis or pickleball or others like golf, being very active, right? So it becomes obvious what's really going on here when you see that. Oh, okay, I get it. I get it. Okay. That's not what you want to do. So in this case, it wouldn't make sense to say how Joe Biden's dropping out of the race caused Trump to get shot. Wait, that doesn't make any sense. You can see how obvious it is, right? That would be a reversing cause and effect. The one thing caused the other. So what we don't want you to do is when you write headlines, when you're doing a little sense making, that's this puzzle piece assembly in an organization, it's also called sense making. We don't want you to leer into that territory where you're not making any sense. You're simply asserting things without evidence. We don't want you to do that. But what we do want you to do is we want you to be in a position where you are connecting that which needs to be connected. So another thing that I noticed recently that wasn't a good example of this was how the Springfield News-Sun, back in July of this year, they connected between 12 and 20,000 new Haitian immigrants since 2021, the economic decline of the region, Clark County proper, but also Springfield, the city, rising unemployment, dissatisfaction, and lowered and falling mortality, or rather falling Average age, longevity, not good situation there. Stress on the city's resources, and a new federal policy which turned these otherwise illegal immigrants to become legal immigrants. Oh, look at this. We can just change some paperwork, and now they're no longer illegal immigrants. Haha. Suck it, JD. Right? This is how the left is talking about this situation. Springfield News Sun, being a local journalism organization, did a fantastic job of sense making all of that, connecting all of it, and also bringing to mind government programs which allowed for employers in Clark County and in Springfield to offer jobs not to citizens, but only to migrant workers, and pay them way less and not offer them benefits. But then special federal programs coming into the gap and providing them with free healthcare, free housing, and free transportation, free education, so on and so forth. That's otherwise meant for U.S. citizens. Ooh, that's not good. Springfield News Sun reported all of this long before the Trump clip against Kamala Harris went viral. So we know that there's a there, and there's a true story. And I have seen privately reports, enough reports, that it's plausible to believe they really are eating the cats and the dogs at this point. Eating domesticated pets in the developing countries, developing nations, Western Hemisphere, Eastern Hemisphere, Caribbean, otherwise, that's common. That's typical. It's not shameful in those cultures or abhorrent or, let's say, disgust triggering like it is here in the United States. But when you have populations brought in, trafficked in really by the many thousands, and there's no integration, you're going to get some strange cuisines. You're going to get a little bit of, what do they like to call it? Seasoning your population. Cultural enrichment, they call it. Yeah, well, not all the animals are happy about that. And of course, there's always excuses made. I remember the one where it was confirmed that ducks and geese were disappearing from local parks. And the left then said, well, duck tastes good. Well, Republicans are hunters. The sort of moral authority check, little frame check right there. Like, well, that's licensed, regulated hunting is very different from going to the park and killing a goose in front of a bunch of kids. Like that's noticeably different, folks. Okay, that's not even the same thing. So the false equivalence is another thing. As you become more adept at persuasion yourself, you will also become immune to persuasion being targeted towards you, manipulation, even. That's a good thing. So I want to bring all of this full circle back around to when you know what all the disparate facts are in the picture, you can connect them. Not like the crazy conspiracy theorist meme, but like cause and effect. Chronological order is best when you can do that. In your stories, in your posts, in your articles, in your videos, and even about your business, what's going on in your industry. This thing happened and this thing happened, which caused this thing to happen. A quick anecdote about that in my own industry. The reason 50 Shades of Grey was the #1 best-selling novel of all time is because it was an ebook, and it came out the very same time Kindle did. And so women, 35 to 42, could quietly and privately read this smut in public on their Kindle during their commute without getting caught. Oh, wow, that's different than sense-making. That is an example of sense-making right there. Figuring out the cause and effect, the connecting of the dots. Why did this thing happen the way that it did? Your people in your industry, customers, consumers, users, not just about national things or federal things or whatever's going on in your country, but in your industry. Why did that happen? What does this mean for me? If you can answer those two questions, you will be able to give people goosebumps. You'll be able to write headlines as short and snappy as how a shot meant for Donald Trump took out Joe Biden, how this one thing caused the other, how Kindle ebook, how Jeff Bezos made Smut the #1 best-selling book of all time, right? Whoa, that's that same thing. How this thing caused this other thing that you don't realize it if you don't have all the facts. But you're a sense maker, so you do. That is Daily Persuasion. See you next time.